so here's what the situation is. Student loan debt has become one of the greatest wealth killers in America, really, especially the black community. The reason it's the biggest wealth killer in the black community is because a lot of you were trained to work hard, go to school so you can get a good job, and basically give away all of your family wealth to some big white university that probably only brings black people to campus when they're playing basketball or throwing footballs. You probably went to some school where, if you go through the whole business school, the whole biology department, there's not one single African American faculty member. Even many HBCUs don't hire African Americans for things like business or the sciences. When I went to Howard University to interview for a job on the finance faculty many years ago, I was interviewed by a Chinese man. So I had to impress a Chinese man enough to convince this Chinese guy that I'd be good enough to teach African American students. How about that? That was kind of amazing. So here's the deal. You go deep in debt. Half of all black college graduates default on their student loans. This is your talented 10th. These are the people that you were hoping would help you close the racial wealth gap, but they can't. It's almost like having your best player on your team that's injured. It's like taking LeBron James and putting him on the court with one leg. So basically, you're a black elite. The black folks that went to college ended up basically in so much debt that they can't get out of the debt. And many of them were defaulting on the student loans. So when you default on the student loans, what happens is that the implications are far deeper than just not being able to pay the debt. It's almost like the worst versions of catching the virus. Catching the virus and overcoming it is one thing, but then sometimes you can have long-term health problems as a result of the fact that you got so sick. So the fact that you got so financially sick and couldn't pay your student loans means that now your credit is bad. Well, now that your credit is bad, not only has this affected the moves that you've made to this point and the money that you have to this point, it's also affecting the moves that you can make in the future. It's crippled you for life. You get what I'm saying? Give me a yes or no if you understand what I'm talking about. So debt is a wonderful thing when it's used properly. It's a terrible thing when it's used improperly. Student loan debt is a highly improper way to use debt when it's used in excess. So the interesting thing about Joe Biden is what Joe Biden is referring to, what he's talking about now, is something that, at least on the surface, does not appear to be truly transformative on the student loan front. They're talking about taking away about $10,000 in student loan debt. $10,000 in student loan debt. So I want to ask you a question. Give me a yes or no. Yes or no. How many of you have more than $10,000 in student loans? Give me a yes or no. How many of you have more than $10,000 in student loans? Yes or no? I'd like to know. Because most college students I know, especially those who graduated from places like Syracuse University, where it costs about $72,000 a year to attend that school now, which, by the way, is incredibly way too much to spend on a college degree. I'd rather spend time putting my child through an entrepreneurship program so they can learn to start a business and get cash flow, or teach them how to buy real estate so they can own property and get cash flow, or teach them how to go buy stocks and bonds so they can actually have assets and cash flow. I'd rather teach them that than have them go spend $72,000 a year to go learn liberal arts. I'm sorry. I know learning Shakespeare is very exciting and makes you feel good, but and I've been a college professor for many years, so I'm the first person to tell you that education is valuable, but I'm also the first person to tell you that most of what you get on a college campus in terms of education, much of that you can actually get on the internet. The only thing you can't get on the internet that you can actually get, that you can get on the campus, is professional licenses, professional degrees. So if you want to be a dentist, or you want to be a licensed social worker, or you want to have some sort of, or you want to get a legal license, you have to go to college for that, for sure. But if you're talking about going to school to study Old English literature so you can get a degree, in writing, and have $200,000 in debt because you learned English literature, I don't know if that's a good investment. I just don't. I'm not saying that it's stupid. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying that it's going to be hard to overcome that hurdle, because one of the fundamental rules of debt, and when it comes to money, one of the most fundamental rules of debt is that the income generated from that debt should exceed the amount of debt that you take on. That the amount of money that you make from the debt should be higher in what they call a present value model. I'm not going to talk about that. If you want to learn more about that, we talk about that in the Black Business School. But basically, when you do mathematical calculations, the amount that you earn should exceed what you borrow. So debt is a wonderful thing on one condition. There's one condition in which debt is good. That is when debt is making you money, when debt is elevating you to a better economic position. Many Black students are not elevated to a better economic position because they took on the debt. Let me tell you why the debt did not work for you. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button. The reason the debt does not work for you as a Black person is because the wages of workers have remained stagnant while the cost of tuition has gone up. Follow my words. Read the words that are coming out of my mouth. The cost of tuition has gone up while wages for pretty much all workers, even those with college degrees, have not gone up very much at all. Now, the money that's being made by entrepreneurs has skyrocketed. The money being made by people that own stocks and bonds skyrocketed. The money made by people who own real estate skyrocketed. That's what they call asset inflation. So the value of stocks and bonds in real estate has gone up in conjunction with the cost of tuition. But what has not gone up is that paycheck that you're going to get from that little job that you bought $200,000 for in order to get that job. So when you were sent to a big white university so that you could go deep in debt to get a job working for another white person when you finish that university, so you can drive a nice car and live in a nice neighborhood and say, look, mama, I made it because I went to Harvard, you are engaging in what I consider to be one of the most epic racial wealth transfers in history. But it's not even just racial. It's really a transfer from to the rich from everybody else. And when I mean the rich, I'm talking about not so much rich in terms of assets. I'm talking about rich in terms of actions. The transfer of wealth goes from the worker to those who own assets, from the renter to the landlord, from the consumer to the producer. So when you go to college and you go deep in debt to get that college degree, that with an amount of debt that you can never repay, that you're going to die in debt. You know, Kevin Samuels was over there talking about people dying alone. I don't know if I can tell you if you're going to die alone, but I can tell you a whole lot of folks are going to die in debt. A whole lot of folks are going to die in debt. So all that debt that you took on, that was a wealth transfer, because the universities are getting over like Pablo Escobar. If you have a big university in your city, chances are that they are in some black neighborhood. They're gentrifying that neighborhood. They have removed all the black folks, put up a Starbucks and a Whole Foods, and bought up all the land, bought up entire city blocks at a time, because the land is so cheap, because they've got all the cash, right? So the universities are winning. The landlords, because of asset inflation, real estate going up, they are winning. People who own businesses are winning. People who own stocks and bonds are winning. A lot of you in here own stocks and bonds because you've been listening to me for a while. You know I'm big on the stock market. And so I congratulate you if you're in that category, because you have officially leapt the fence. You have officially broken a generational curse that would probably have haunted your family for another 100 years had you and I not had a good conversation, and had you not had the courage to engage in action that makes you a little bit different from the average Negro. You're not different. You're not like everybody else. You are different. You're better. You're special. You're smarter. You're more capable. And that's why I respect you.